first episode of Landman Season 2 opens with Tommy Norris taking in the Texan skyline ahead of yet another big day in the oil industry. As the new president of M-Tex, he is starting to feel the pressure, especially with the cartel now coming out of the shadows to demand a stake in the oil industry. We see an epic rant from Tommy about how breakfast is capitalist propaganda pushed by companies that only make breakfast food. His point is that breakfast isn't the most important meal of the day, and it's just companies making people believe it is because they want to sell cereal and frozen waffles. Elsewhere, his son, Cooper, wakes up to one of the most important days of his life, but keeps the exact details a secret from Ariana before heading out. Cammy Miller, who has recently been crowned the sole owner of Mtex following her husband Monty's death, organizes a luncheon for business partners and friends alike, where she plans to formalize the succession process. However, the environment in the event turns out to be more tense and paranoid than she expected, as no one believes that the hole left behind by Monty can be easily replaced. Murmurs about the business partner's doubts reach Tommy's ears, and before long, he is confronted by Danny, who points to a change in control clause in their contract and demands a structural overhaul of the business. However, Tommy is quick to counter with the fact that Monty promoted him to president before his death, making it an organic progression for the company. Although Danny tries to push the argument further by questioning Cammy's credibility, Tommy threatens to shut the company down till things are settled. The possibility of millions, if not billions, going down the drain is enough to silence Danny. From there, Tommy makes a deal with Bob to sell the company's gas field territories in East Texas. When the subject of Cammy's upcoming speech comes up again, Tommy reveals that he has no idea himself and in fact agrees with the general opinion that the company should sell her share of the company. In the meantime, Cammy battles self-doubt. Alone in the washroom, she trembles as she rehearses her speech, only to be confronted by two young girls, Lexi and Stormy, who mock her age and looks. Their teasing triggers a moment of clarity for Cammy. Rather than adhere to a prepared script, she must speak from the heart. At the luncheon, facing bankers and investors ready to scrutinize her every word, she declares that she will lead Mtex with the same strategic acumen as Monty, but with far more ferocity. Her message is simple yet powerful. Underestimating her because she is a woman would be a grave mistake. The room responds with stunned admiration, including Bob, who is the first to applaud. Tommy, watching her command the stage, is impressed, curious about the source of her resolve. Cammy casually attributes her fiery performance to personal vindication. She intends to punish the girls who mocked her by showing them her strength and control over powerful men. Elsewhere, Cooper checks in on the new oil well he recently scouted, and an entire team is assembled to set up the rig. While the initial outpour leaves a pile of sludge and mud in its wake, Cooper doesn't give up and urges his men to push further. At over 5,000 feet, the pressure valve starts to wildly tilt to its highest values, signaling that Cooper's hunch was correct. A closer reading confirms that the oil rig yields approximately 6,200 units, which roughly translates to 500 barrels a day, well beyond anyone's estimate. Excited, Cooper dashes back home to pick up Ariana and bring her to the rig, where he is hardly able to contain his joy. At this rate, Cooper projects that the rig will turn over a profit in 2 months or less, following which they can expect to rake in about $10 million a year. Ariana is stunned by the number, and the idea of living the dream slowly begins to seep into her psyche, as it already has for her partner. Angela and Aninsley go on an adventure of their own, one that leads them to the prestigious Texas Christian University, where she has been shortlisted for admission. On the way to her interview with the admissions counselor, Angela coaches her daughter on college trivia, such as how the school's iconic mascot, the horned toad, is actually a type of lizard. Due to her skills as a cheerleader, Aninsley is given a priority walk-on status. But that doesn't mean that her interview with the counselor goes any smoothly. When asked about her decision to switch from Tech to TCU, she points to the former college's policy of not allowing cheerleaders to date athletes. She explains her stance by claiming that romantic relationships between conventionally attractive cheerleaders and athletic sports people can result in healthier, more attractive offspring. While the counselor is shocked at the level of elitism on display, she is unable to turn the application down. Back at Mtex, Tommy coaches Cammy on running the company, advising her to defer to him initially. She resists, determined to learn the ropes herself, but Tommy cautions that Monty's unresolved issues have left Mtex in a fragile state. For now, he must stabilize operations before fully passing authority to her. Their discussion is interrupted by Cooper, who wants to talk oil wells immediately. Tommy defers the conversation, insisting they discuss it in person, demonstrating his awareness of balancing family and business priorities. In light of his promotion, Angela decides to go all out with a private jet, taking them to their destination. Angela and Tommy's dynamic is volatile. She expresses her desire to move closer to Aninsley by relocating to Fort Worth, leveraging Tommy's position at Mtex. Tommy perceives her motivations as opportunistic, fearing that Angela's financial habits and impulsive nature could jeopardize stability. From there, the scene shifts to Prairie View Assisted Living, an old-age facility where an elderly man watches the sunset. Although he is called inside for supper by his caretakers, the man, identified as TL, refuses. At this point, one of the nurses gets him to calm down and rest, as they have sad news. A woman named Dorothy, who was seemingly close to TL, has passed away, and the moment he hears the news, he slumps back into his wheelchair and demands euthanasia. Back at Tommy's residence, Cooper joins the dinner table with the hope of telling his father about his plan to become a complete landman. But the conversation is cut short by Angela's enthusiasm clashes with the realities of the household. She has prepared an elaborate meal, but her over-the-top spending and lack of culinary finesse spark criticism from Tommy, Cooper, Nathan, and Dale. Although Tommy is now wealthier than ever, he is easily upset by the sudden increase in the family's spending. In particular, we learn that Angela and Tommy are in talks for buying a new house, and although Angela is fond of that prospect, Tommy has his own hesitations. In a bad faith move, he inappropriately claims that her menstrual cycle often affects her decision-making ability, and that creates a massive rift in the family dynamics. As plates are hurled and shattered all over the room, Aninsley and Cooper rush out for their safety, and Tommy narrowly diffuses the situation by replacing his earlier comments with attempts at flirtation. The trick works, and the couple nearly gets intimate, until a phone call changes the tone yet again. Tommy reveals that his mother is dead, which implies that the woman mentioned earlier, named Dorothy, was his mother. This also raises questions about where exactly TL fits into the equation, and the most likely answer is that he is Tommy's father.